Hello and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly program where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. As a reminder, the thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions, so make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, we love seeing you every Thursday night on Facebook or YouTube land. The live streams are always fun. We have a lot of interaction. Like, you guys are showing up early for the chats now, which is great because we're like, you've got like the whole like mixing room before that. But anyway, it's great to see you on there. Remember, your chats may show up on the show, so keep that in mind. And as always, if you can't catch us live, always check us out in the replay or on your favorite podcasting app. You know me. My name is John Ruark, past master of the Patriot Lodge, number 1957 in Fairfax, Virginia. Joe, how you doing?
Wow, you just threw me off. I'm never
Joe.
Hello, Joe Martinez.
What does your subtext say there? 4 more years.
2 more weeks.
4 more years.
2 more weeks.
Oh, right.
We just all we gotta do is show up now, and we're gravy. But yeah, Joe Martinez, Worshipful Master, Manasseh Lodge number 182, and member of a whole bunch of other things. And as always, Sun Card, I hate you. Everybody who's commenting on another year, you are not getting a Christmas card this year. So FYI, keep it up.
All righty.
Yeah.
All right. Jason Richards, how you doing?
I'm good. I am personally excited that in 2 weeks, we get the privilege to elect Joe to a 3rd term.
Yay.
It'll be great.
And where's the ban from studio button?
All right, then.
Next up. Past master of Acacia Lodge.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good to say past master. It really does.
It does. It's like a weight off of my shoulders.
It does. You know who else is a past master? RJ. How's it going, RJ? RJ from WCY.
Arr.
Yeah, it's me, Arj.
I don't know. He's not going to be a past master for long.
Yeah, so past master of Waukegan Lodge 78, current sitting secretary over there, and current sitting secretary at Space Novum. However, I am the master elect for 2024. So we'll have a good education program, and it's going to be fantastic. So good to be with you guys. Excited about tonight's show. Looking forward to learning.
How are you going to be secretary and master at the same time?
Well, guess what? You know how we have, there's like bros, and then there's like super brothers, like the guys that you talk to every day. Yeah. So Scott Duvall was like, I'll do secretary.
Aw.
I was like, man, you're like one of the only people that I feel I could like hand it to.
So there's like taking a bullet for someone, falling on a sword, or being that guy's secretary. So
yeah,
that's
not a bullet, man. That is like a M1 tank round. That is not a bullet. It's like you're getting annihilated.
So
all right.
Yeah, I owe Scott. But anyway.
And last but not least, our special guest for tonight, that is Brother El Mehdi Marhoum, who also is a member of the Patriot Lodge number 1957. What else do you do?
What I do? Actually, I cannot call myself a past master. I'm an upcoming master.
All right. Yay! If all goes well, don't jinx it.
Yep. Knock on wood. Take it over the head. So, yep. And also a member of Ashman Sterling 288, my mother lodge, Ashman Sterling 288. So thank you guys for having me tonight.
All right. Well, great. It's great having you. So let's get right to business. I want to give a special shout out to the patrons who support the show. You guys are awesome. As always, we will see some new patrons jumping in.
Did
you say nude?
New patrons.
I said send. I said send new patrons. Send news.
Okay.
Not
send
okay.
News. Yeah.
I don't want nudes.
So we have new patrons who've been joining the chat.
Our patrons are lovely.
They are.
We appreciate you with your clothes on.
And not nude.
Yes. Which you can now chat with us.
Strongly implied.
7 days a week in the Patreon app. You can attach pictures. We'd rather you not, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Good stuff. All right, and next up, Tarot Card of the Week.
Tarot Card of the Week.
Oh my goodness.
So let's talk about what tarot card are we going to pull for Sufism and Freemasonry, tonight's topic.
Tarot Card of the
That's
Week.
Good question.
Oops, take it away, Jason.
All right. So we have.
Let's bring this over. There we
There
go.
we go. Come on, we've been using this streaming platform for over a year now.
Amateur hour.
Yeah. So tonight we have the dirt on the altar cloth. We have the Antique Anatomy Tarot. And really interesting, really pretty deck. Focused on kind of old time vintage medicine. And so tonight we're going to discuss
Apothecaries.
the Hierophant.
Mm.
That's quite a good card for this episode.
Mhm. Very nice.
Mm.
So what is it in this thing? We got a whole bunch of like a femur bone with some other smaller bones and some.
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah,
What-
so what we
legs.
have is it's essentially it's a cross type of structure made with
It's like a cross of Lorraine in bone.
yeah, yep.
I dig it.
With some black currants.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm digging it.
Yeah,
There we go.
we go.
So yeah, so the Hierophant, surprisingly, is a card of religion.
Mm-hmm.
Tradition.
So, yes, group conformity, structure, tradition. So that's that's a apropos card for Sufism.
The way they did that card is really sweet, actually, because like if you look at a rider weight I should say a Smith weight deck, really. If you look at a Smith weight deck, or pretty much anybody who takes that iconography that's similar, that is the top of the Hierophant's staff.
That's what I thought
That's
of earlier.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Good call. Good call. So consider all the awesome religious aspects of this as we go along. For tonight's episode, which is on Sufism and Freemasonry, unveiling the mystical connection. So, no surprise, it's great to have Brother Mitty on. We've gone in very similar Masonic circles, and I'll say it, he's in the Get It Club too. He likes to talk about spiritual things as well, and it's great to have his perspective to talk about Sufism because, can I say you're a practicing Sufi?
Yep.
So before we get into all that, what is Sufism? And let's set the stage there, and then just go deep down the rabbit hole after that.
Sounds good. So the word Sufism, and before, like, what is Sufism from a mystic perspective? In Arabic, the word Sufism is Sophia. We know what the Sophia is.
I've heard that word before.
Greek word, right? It means wisdom. But that word, the Greek word, actually came from Gnosticisms. It came from a feminine figure, which is the human soul, the feminine side, the feminine aspect of the human soul, God. If you look at the Nag Hammadi text, which are the first Christians between the first century Christians, and you look at that, which is, the Gnosticisms come from, Sophia is the lowest aeon, which is the female twin of the divine aeon, and it's the emanation of light of God. So literally, it's the anthropic expression of the emanation of the light of God. It's like what we call enlightenment, like the enlightenment paths, right?
And the divine feminine, it sounds like, too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what it meant. So in enlightenment path in Arabic, it's called Nuraniya, which is enlightenment, which comes from light. So something that derives from light. So Sophia. The Arabic word means people that are wearing, these who were wolves, because Sufism, they were very known to wear wool. And that's what Sophia is. Sofa in Arabic means wool. But Sophia, it's, if you look at, I've been searching this word because I'm not buying that it's just came from like the people wearing the wool, because before Sufism, there were other people that were practicing enlightenment, right? So we talk about
Sure.
Christian mysticisms, which is the Gnosticisms. We talked about Kabbalah from a Jew perspective. We're talking about the Hermetics. We talk about, and even like if you look at historic, like the Jewish teachings, the first Kabbalist was Prophet Abraham, right? That's what they teach. So they teach that the first was Prophet Abraham, which is back then, Prophet Abraham did not have the Torah. He had the scrolls of Abraham. So there was no enlightenment through using because the Torah. So it was a different type of enlightenment path. So the enlightenment path is all over. We've been through the whole Abrahamic religions in every single one of them. And Sufism is just another enlightenment path that takes you to the enlightened stage, but using Islam and using Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, as the guide and entrance to the gates to meet God. So Sufism is an enlightenment path. It's a soul, is feeding the soul. And a lot of people, they don't like, okay, what is enlightenment? The soul, it's can be fed also as you feed your body. And there's something that needs to feed the body. And Sufism, it's how, as a Muslim, you feed your soul with the dhikr, which is the recitations of the Quran and the repetition of so many prayers in the name of God and invoking the deity to its presence so that it cleanses, which is also from, we just did the Torah, it's just an energy cleansing perspective. So there's a lot of energy there from that perspective. So Sufism, it's like philosophy. You ask anybody what philosophy is, it gives you different answers, right? Same concept of Sufism. You ask anybody, it's going to give you, I can be talking just about what Sufism for hours, but you can see how it's related to so many other Abrahamic religions and how it touches different aspects.
Well, I like, yeah, and thanks, Brother Mehdi. I love that you started with, you defined it by talking about the similarities to it, and you're absolutely right. So, you know, and I'm sure you're going to get into the history of it as well, but all those other Abrahamic faiths that had their enlightenment paths, they all started kind of in the same way, right? They started as ascetics, right? Whether it was the early Sufis or the early Christian Gnostics. Yeah, they were out in the wilderness just learning stuff from the world, right? And they all had similar pathways, and I find that super interesting that, you know, each of the major Abrahamic faith religions have that subset, right? Because not everybody who's Muslim is a practicing Sufist, right? Same thing with the wide world of Christianity. There's only a small number that actually practice Christian mysticism, let's call it. And same thing with our Hebrew brothers and sisters. You know, there's only a small amount that practice Kabbalah or other mystic faiths. So I like that you started it off by bringing it into a realm of, oh, cool, I get it, because that speaks to me, or that speaks to me. But you're basically walking the same path.
Exactly.
Going all the way back to Moses when he was getting high off of that burning acacia plant.
You're not wrong.
Anyway, as you were saying.
So you've laid the terms. How did you get involved, Brother Mehdi?
My experience is different. Sufism, Morocco. I'm originally from Morocco. Morocco is my home country. Sufism is very dominant in Morocco. We are one of the largest shrines in all over the world. From not only Sufism, it's also, or Islam. We also have Jewish shrines as well in Morocco, because we do have one of the largest Jewish population. So Sufism, how I got involved, this was always part of the culture. It's part of the Moroccan culture. It's embedded in our culture. I have family history into it. I want to get into in detail to it, but I do have family history to it. But as I've been searching for my soul, and my story has been searching for my soul for so long, everything took me back to Sufism. And before I became Sufi, like I went back to practicing against Sufism. Actually, I became a Freemason, and then I'm like, wait a minute, this is like just another science. Like I need to go back to Sufism. So it's funny. Like I'm like teachings of Freemasonry. I'm like, wait a minute, this is
so funny. I will say, and I'm probably going to share a common experience here, that Freemasonry, to steal RJ's words, is like the outer porch, and then you're like, oh, I didn't realize there was this other cool stuff behind the door, and then that actually brought me back closer to my faith after joining Freemasonry. Yeah, and So it's such synchronicity to see a lot of that common pattern where guys join the fraternity and they like start seeing some other stuff they weren't exposed to, and then go deeper down their own personal rabbit holes, and I think it's just fantastic. So
Well, not to get into a segue here, but it's funny. While I was researching for tonight, I was went to John's favorite place, ChatGPT, and I said, describe the commonalities between Sufism and Masonry. And you know what our friend ChatGPT said? It said there are none. Sufism is a mystical religious path, and this is what ChatGPT said: Freemasonry is a fraternal organization that does boring crap. So
Can we just admit that at its core, ChatGPT is very exoteric?
yes, but I found it super interesting, right? Because the first thing that it spit out was Freemasonry has nothing to do with spirituality. It's just a fraternal organization where you join and spend money and get a dues card and wear lapel pins and boring crap like that. And I was like, oh, ChatGPT.
I mean, most of the members of our lodges, outside of maybe RJ's, would cheer.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Agreed.
Well, I don't think ChatGPT went to a Scottish rite and got 25th degree.
Oh, coming soon.
So I think that's missing there. So there's a lot of, but it's a good question there, because as a Freemason, a Muslim, and Sufism walking in. So what brought me back to Sufism? So let me just answer that question, if you get don't mind, which is the concept of why Sufism stands on pancakes. Well, we will answer that question when we get to it.
Only ones that are light.
Pancakes
fluffy.
So Sufism, the first concept of the 3 degrees, like the 3 degrees. In Freemasonry, we have the 3: the initiation, the fellow crafts, and the master mason. And even the concept of it says initiation, you're stepping in. Fellow craft, you're the fellowship. And then you have mastering at the end, which are the master. That in Islam itself, as a religion, has 3 states. The first state is called Islam. That means you profess your faith. But that profession is not by saying there is no God except God and Muhammad is prophet by your mouth, but actually you're supposed to say it by your heart. So saying by your heart means you have to really believe into it. So how many of us in this call believe that you're not worried about a meeting is going to happen next week, or your wife, something's going to happen, where you have submitted 100% your will to God? You say there's no God except God, so I have submitted everything to God. It's the full submission have I done. It's very hard for you to do. It's the hardest thing to do, which is the first initiation where you submit yourself. And that is done by purification of the heart. And I want to go back to that, talk about the purification of heart, because that is the most tenet, which is the first tenet as we get in the booklets in Freemasonry, which is brotherly love, that purification of brotherly love, which is also the first station in Masonic lodges, which is, if you look at it, it's called beauty, the beautification of heart. The second step, then after you get to that level where you are fully submitted, that you have fully submitted your will, that means you don't worry about anything. You leave it to God, and God will take care of it. Then you go to go ahead.
Eddie, I've got a quick question.
Go ahead.
So how do you keep from becoming like fatalistic and or complacent? Because I could see a natural part of the thought process on fully submitting to God as being, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, so screw it. I'm done.
Because in Islam, the teachings also teach you that al-amal al-ibadah means working. So working for the good of humanity is part of a prayer. That's part of a ritual. There's a very famous story where this gentleman was sitting all day long in a mosque, praying all day long in a mosque. The Prophet, peace be upon him, came in. He was like, "Who's that man?" He was like, "Well, this is gentleman so and so. He's prays all day long." How is he fed? Well, his brother is the one that works for him and he feeds him. And he goes, does his brother pray too? Yeah, he prays his 5-day prayers, but he cannot be as his brother because the one has to work. He said the working brother is a better Muslim than the one that's praying all day long. So the concept of giving back to humanity is part of the teachings. But the submit of the will, that means you should not be worried about what's going to happen. You should not be trying to fight your destiny. You should let your destiny work and work that destiny in life. But you should be working on yourself. You should be working on the whole concept of helping humanities. But at the same time, you should not trying to worry too much about deriving or changing or trying to work, because we get so trapped into the superfluities of life that we forget about the divine soul and the whole destiny. To answer another question, because we can get deep into that so esoterically, and al-mu'minu, like it is the Quran that says, who believes in God, its prophets, its books, God, his angels, kutubi, his books, Rasul, his prophet, the day of the judgments, and then destiny, good and bad of it, whatever it comes out. Because the good can be good for you, even the bad. You don't know how good it can be. Sometimes you feel it's a bad thing, but at the end, it's end up to be a good thing. So that submission makes you, the whole concept makes you a very divine, where you can be at peace and your heart is at peace. Because life is all about what? Your soul versus your heart. And that's what it is. The soul is the divine thing that's God has blown inside. It's the part of God. The heart is our desires to be. So
it's almost the intuition versus the emotion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and Mehdi, I mean, chime in if you disagree. I mean, that's literally what the word Islam means, right? It means submission or surrender, right? But to your point, Jason, it's not, when you speak to a practicing Muslim, it's not like the guy in the mosque who's just laying there praying and doing absolutely nothing. You're surrendering to the will of deity, right? To the things that he's already laid out that make you a better person and make the world a better place, not just laying there pooping yourself and doing nothing. That's not that kind of surrender. It's like giving into the current of the river. It's like, I'm gonna get there, but I'm letting him take me there.
Well, it's another. Oh, sorry, RJ.
No, go ahead.
It's another parallel that I draw across, like Jewish mysticism, Sufi mysticism, and Christian mysticism. The idea that the focus is on the betterment of mankind. And so, like, you are purifying yourself, but at the same time, you are working to love and make the world a better place. And that is like the number one thing that I have loved about my journey into mysticism.
So Jason, sorry, RJ, I'll pass it to you, but that's the second step. You cannot start working on a relationship with others until you work on yourself first. So I'll get to that. I'll come back to that, because that's the second step in Islam. But I'll come back to that.
You're a good straight man, Jason. Good.
I read ahead.
Exactly. Stop cheating. RJ, please go ahead.
Sure. So this is really interesting, because I guess my question probably leads right into your talk about the second step. So at the height of, I don't know how to say this. We'll call it the way it is. Okay. So at a point a few years ago during an election, there was a heightened sense, in my opinion, radicalized right-wing folks who had some prejudices that they were really wearing on their sleeves, like even in Congress, right? And so what I found was so interesting in this time, I live 4 blocks from a temple, right? And I drive by there several times in a day. And during that time period, all I can remember actually, because they're always active, there's always like some sort of family thing happening where the public is invited. And so during this time, I just remember the you talked about doing the work and to work for others and build relationships. And it was amazing to me to see, like, in this time when it was arguably less safe to be a Muslim American, that they were putting forward their hands and feet to kind of like be the first to reach out, right? I remember the sign they had up. They were doing a barbecue. It was like barbecue for veterans or something. And I was like, this is just really. It was just so neat to see that amount of community involvement, and not to like say anything bad about, let's say the local churches in my area, but the local churches in my area are usually doing things like bake sale, or like the rummage sale, right? It's not a lot of community outreach, which I think, honestly, I think the Muslim community does very, very well.
Good point, RJ. It depends on the locations. I mean, I don't want to derive the conversation about
Sure.
about Islam and and talk about churches and mosques, and because that, like, we gotta be focusing about it depends. Like, there are goods and bads everywhere. When I came to the United States 24 years ago, it's been a long time.
It's been a long time for us too, Mehdi.
Yeah. I've only known you for a year. It's felt like centuries.
John's been knowing me for longer than that, and Joe as well. So, so 24 years ago, I was gonna say I was exposed to different religions. I came from Morocco, where I was only knew. I had Jews cousins, like their family friends. They were like cousins to me, played with them my whole life. And Christians, they were in school with me, or like around surroundings or things of a kind, and Islam, the three Abrahamic religions. And I was exposed to one of my good friends. She was Baha'i. One of my very close friends back in Arkansas, she was Baha'i. I met one of my best friends. He was a Wicca. So I had so much exposure that I had to learn, and I was learning this. I was very fascinated by learning new things, and I can tell you there are similarities, but to focus on Sufism and the whole concept, and I want to go back to that. When you submit and you do purification of your heart, that's where you work on yourself with prayers and so forth. The next thing that you're going to be doing is what we call being on the level.
Sounds familiar.
Very familiar, right?
Are there a bunch of different ones, like there are in Masonry?
All right. Masonry or Masonry? Which one?
Whatever your brother prefer.
All right, let's talk about this Masonry. But the Iman, which is the second step. So the first step is Islam. The second step is Iman. Iman, the Prophet, peace be on him, said, you cannot call yourself have reached the sublime of Iman unless your love for yourself, your love for your brother, what you love for yourself. So that's where that's a level comes in. As a matter of fact, in Sufism, they call it is trying to break your ego. Like they try to break it. That way, that ego doesn't exist. They call it mizan. Also, they call it mizan, which is level. The same concept, the level. Everything has been a level. And so the second step of Iman, it's working on yourself with relationships, because ad-dinu mu'amalat, the whole religion is relationships. It's how you treat others, how you work on others, how you build for the future. So that's the second step. You cannot start working on the others if you haven't worked in. You have to work in then out, right? Let's go back to Jason, to your point, is how you get that from that. So that's why it's a 3-step process. And we go back to 3 degrees. And if you look at the 3 stations, which is beauty, which is represented by the plum, the level, which is strength, which you strengthen yourself. You're working on strengthening your relationships, and you strengthen yourself because you can be very. And then the last one, which is we're gonna talk about it. When you get to that purification of heart and you get to that level, you're so well as a human being that you get to raised to the sublime degree of ihsan. As I saw brother here, HANIOJ, he's talking about three of them, which is what I was going, is Iman, Islam, Iman, Ihsan. That the last Ihsan, that is where you are at that level, where you pray, you walk on a daily basis, is like you have an eye of God watching you. So that Ihsan, you are so, because you're so afraid of, you're so squared in your actions that you're so afraid that to hurt other feelings, to step over those boundaries, that you're literally walking like God is watching every single step of your life. This is just the first steps of Islam. Just FYI, we haven't got to Sufism and enlightenment, which is just Islam itself. So you have the first step, the 3 steps that makes you to that sublime degree of ihsan, and which also is based on, also always based in enlightenment. So when you get to the ihsan, you get into enlightenment, because that's what enlightenment is. That's what Sufism is. That's where Sufism gets you. I mean, Sufism is not there. Sufism is the path to walk to get you there. Sufism starts always with what we call a sheikh. Sheikh is your master. As anybody needs a master, needs a guide, somebody to guide him. So he guides you, because you need somebody that is already there to show you the path. Otherwise, you don't get to the path. So the 3 steps of that, you can relate to them with Freemasonry heavily. And that's why when I went back to Freemasonry and I'm hearing brother-in-law, I'm hearing this, I'm like, wait a minute. This is like 101 for me. It's like, this is a sign. I got to go back to square zero, right? It's like something I'm hearing on a daily basis. And the journey to the east that we talk about, to that east that we talk, is a journey from that perspective and so forth. So that's where these 3 steps in that I was referring to, from Freemasonry to Islam and Sufism, but also in Sufism itself, it has 3 steps into it. When you get to enlightenment, there are also 3 steps. So before I go to that, I want to turn it back to you guys, because it seems like John has a question there.
I mean,
John
no,
has lots of questions.
I have.
John, what's your question, John?
So, So what is Sufism again?
Are you going to ask your question yet?
No, this is fascinating. Because I just want to hear more. So, like, I'm going to turn it back to you, because I want to hear, like, how does one take that extra step? Because again, as we alluded to, not everybody takes the more inner path, and like, what does that process look like? Do you find a group nearby?
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you?
How Socratic?
What were you made? What were you first made a Mason?
In my heart.
Yeah.
Same concept. What were you first made a Sufi?
In your heart.
I win.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You gotta. It's. You don't call in. Like, it's kind of like you something's calling you to it. And I'll go back to my I said I was studying religion. When I was studying religion, I came in and something was always taking me to that path. I didn't even know what I'm going for. I didn't even know what I'm searching for. When I got to a peace with my soul, I found myself, actually, I knew what I was looking for. I was, even when I was in Freemasonry and I was learning and the lessons and all the mysticisms, and I'm like, there's something here I'm missing. But then I found it. It was that my soul is looking for it. It's seeking it, right? So your heart, that soul, want that extra divineness. They want to get the rights. They want to be fed. Your soul wants to be fed. So remember your oath. Delete that audio or beep it later. You didn't say
I
anything.
didn't mean to flash that up on the screen.
Well, Jason, that thing is like very well written in every single book out there. So
I saw
Yeah.
I saw one that I do want to pop up and touch on, because there's
okay.
people don't and
I
maybe we
will.
stepped outside of Sufism a little bit, but yeah, there's definitely
I
some
can talk about that one as well.
intermingling there.
Sure, Joe, I can touch about that. So Knight Templars, this is a very good conversation to have with a lot of people. I don't know who just touched that. Knight Templars in Arabic, in the Muslim world history or Arabic history, Knight Templars, actually half of them were Muslim. They were not all Christians. There are a lot of people that know this in the current Templars in the United States, which is a Christian-based organization. Knight Templars, where Crusaders came in to Jerusalem, and they fought the Arabs. And I say the Arabs because they didn't fight the Muslims. They were Muslims, Jews, Christians, everything, right? It was a war. A war does not know religion. You don't know what the person's heart had. You know, the person has a sword. When they fought it, and then they sit there, they discovered mysticisms. And there was a lot of mysticisms there. There are a lot of books that talks about Knight Templars, their relationship to mysticisms. Some of that they talk about how they are the first one that they were trying to fight the Catholic Church and say, I want to go back to the original teachings of Christianity. And they were the first ones. They're going to go back to before Martin Luther. There's some books talking about it. They've gone to the real teaching before Martin Luther said, you know what, this is not what the Bible says. Here's what the Bible says. Let's go back to Protestants and go back to those teachings. So Knight Templars, some of them, they have mysticisms into those teachings. In some of them, there's a lot of mysticisms in Knight Templars. It's not because not all Knight Templars were Christians. Knight Templars were people that protected the pilgrimage. And I'm going to touch about the pilgrimage. Pilgrimage to Jerusalem, it was also Muslims, because part of old ages where Muslims used to go to Mecca, they used to also stop in Jerusalem. And we talk about what's the import of Jerusalem for us before of the Aqsa. So pilgrimage is anybody that's going to that area. So it was a protection of people that cannot protect themselves. It was protecting people that cannot provide for themselves. And there were people that have like Sufisms that have given up the life, the super of the life, and focus about that house, like that the afterlife, and that's what they're focused on. That's why, and just to say, the strongest point of the strongest moment of a Knight Templar, he's not when he's raising his sword. The strongest moment of when he's kneeling with his sword down, making a prayer. Every time you see a sign of a Knight Templar on his knee and going down like this, that's his strongest moment, because he's close to God. He's praying to God. Nice. Because after that, you just have a real divine person fighting for what's right.
So thanks for bringing that together. I do want to hear kind of your 3 steps of Sufism now.
Okay.
To bring that back.
All right, let's bring that back. So somebody brought that Knight Templar. Thanks for that. Let me go back. So 3 steps of Sufism. So your sheikh, your Sufis, no, James, they were not Moors. Moors were Moroccans, no, Knight Templars.
Don't read the comments. Focus. Don't read the comments. Like a puppy.
Okay, sorry. Somebody popped the comment. So let's talk about the 3 steps. So you have purified your heart. You have broke your level. And you have believed in your sheikh. And most sheikhs in every single tariqah, and you have to have a sheikh that is, they're only... I know only one that is alive, that is a live sheikh, and they are alive to it. Who's my sheikh? I'm very lucky and blessed to call him mine. You know him, and he guides you to the Prophet's also. So your soul, he helps you to cleanse your soul. He gives you dhikr. He gives you what we call wird, which is your daily prayers in the morning and nighttime. And once you get that, and you get to that level, and we do the weekly stuff, you get to that level, and it takes a lot of work to get there. It's not something that you do in a month, on a week, or 3 days. It's work. It's a lot of work. It's a dedication. And when you get to that, the sheikh will introduce you to the Prophet from a soul perspective. So that's the first step, initiation into the enlightenment path. You get to that. But to get to that first, you have to have, this has to be clean, and you have to be on the level. Because then you're getting what? Wisdom, right? We talk about wisdom, the wisdom of the East, the wisdom. That's the first step. Once you get to the prophet, peace be upon him, the prophet then will introduce you to God. Right? We call it hadra, like ilahi, maqam al-ilahi, sorry, not hadra, maqam al-ilahi, where he introduces you to God, right? And you will, that's from a soul perspective. And then God, then, and when you get to very confident, some people, they stay in ahadiyya, sorry, we call it ahadiyya. Some people, they stay in the ahadiyya forever. And you see them, if you go to any Sufi shrine, you see some people, they act like they are very, we call them, they are very like artists. They don't think artists. They're divine. You can tell they're divine, but they think they're crazy, but they're not. They are in touch, constantly touching God. They got to that level and they stayed there. God did not send them back to Maqam al-Muhammadi. Maqam al-Muhammadi is when you sit with the Prophet and you have a conversation with him on a daily basis. That's where it's the third degree, the third step that you get to it. A lot of people, they stay in Maqam al-Muhammadi, al-Ahadi, with God only. I want to tie it back a little bit to Kabbalah, because it's a very known thing in the Kabbalah teachings. You have, when you get to the holies of holies, right, in King Solomon's temple, right, the holy holies was known to what? To have that direct connection with God. That's what we call that direct. That's what the holy holies. You get to the first chamber, you're in an enlightenment path. But in the Holy of Holies, you had that direct connection from a soul perspective to God. And that's what we call al-maqam, what we call al-hadiyya. Hadiyya, like we are with God. You're with the only one, with the God. So that is a correlation from understanding from that perspective, so you can see how those two, and tells you also why King Solomon's Temple, it's very important in enlightenment. We can touch about that in a second. Go ahead,
So Mehdi, then is it possible to achieve that third step in this lifetime?
You can. A lot of people do.
Okay.
A lot of people do. There are some people that, yeah, they can. They do. That's why, for example, like a lot of people do, when they reach that level of enlightenment, the 3 steps, if they don't go back to sit down with the prophet, they stay like those, only with God. They're only with God, and there's no life, no superficiality, nothing. You feel like they're only living with God.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a spiritual thing. It's not a, you don't see with your own eyes. You don't see God. You feel God. You have that direct connection. Keep in mind, nobody was ever able to see God except Prophet Moses, who he saw only a little bit of the light of God, and he could not see it. Even the Prophet Muhammad, when he was raised, and we can talk about that enlightenment journey, he did not see God. He talked to God, but he did not see him, right? Nobody ever saw God in the Islamic teachings except Prophet Moses, but he saw only small of light of God. Makes sense. Like he could not handle him. He was like, I want to see you. He's like, I don't think you're gonna be able to see me. You cannot handle me. So he saw just little of God. I'm talking from Islamic teachings. In Christianity, people saw Jesus, and people believe Jesus was God. So that's a different conversation.
Yeah, I mean, going back to your Holy of Holies in Solomon's Temple, which I liked how you talked about that. You bring that all the way back to the beginning of the conversation, right? Because and I guess we don't talk about it in our faiths enough, but we got to remember that the Holy of Holies was, the Jewish people believed God was there. That was her physical presence on earth, and it had a name. It was the Shekinah, right? And the Shekinah, going all the way back to the beginning of what you said, that was the feminine presence. That was the Shekinah was feminine in nature, right? So that kind of dovetails really nicely into what you were starting to talk about at the beginning of this.
Well, this is where you're gonna find a lot of contradictory things. Is God feminine or masculine? And that's a different subject, because
or both.
He's both. Yes, that's the answer.
I'm gonna get there. Just hold on. I'm getting there. But what we're gonna say is,
reading ahead again.
Piece of candy.
Yeah.
We don't have 6 hours, Mehdi.
Oh, almost done. I'm almost done. But I
Get
was
there,
saying,
Manny. Let's go.
All right, let's
God, God, what I'm saying is, if God was a feminine, why I have, as a man, I have his Holy Spirit. And if God was a masculine, why as a woman, she has his Holy Spirit. So like there's a lot, I'm just talking just from physicality perspective, just like being a man or a woman. So that's a question. And there's a lot of analysis from that perspective. But at the end, we talk about the presence of God, right? You feel the presence of God. And there are other things we can feel presence of God. We have other from that perspective. But King Solomon's Temple is a key thing. Today's word, King Solomon's Temple, before Mecca was the first Qibla. King Solomon's Temple, when he was the ruins, it was the Qibla of the Muslim. Okay? So before, when he was ruins, right? It was the first Qibla of the Muslim. Qibla is where we face to pray. Then after I need to hide this because I'm getting distracted. Sorry. after
These aren't the
when-
comments you're looking for.
Yeah, we noticed that 46 minutes ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. He started the comment I was gonna say, but what happened is in the age of Khalifa Omar, when Khalid ibn Walid went and took over Jerusalem with the whole and that Omar radiallahu anhu, may God be blessed with him, he went and asked where's the King Solomon Temple, right? And he showed him, and he built the Aqsa. A lot of people, they think the Aqsa is the dome rock. No, it's not. That's not the Aqsa. The Aqsa is a different one. As a matter of fact, I do have a picture that I can put out to make you to see the difference between the Aqsa, the Aqsa, what it is, and the King Solomon's Temple. And this will definitely show you this whole connection with enlightenment, and also will help define. Sorry, I'm trying to pull this. I do have it. If I can share it. No. Okay. Al-Aqsa is. Al-Aqsa, it's a I have it right here. Al-Aqsa, it's the mosque on the. If you look at the dome, the rock of the dome, there's another mosque at the end. That's Al-Aqsa. That's the Middle Qibla. That's what it is. And that's where the Muslims were. If you look at where the Aqsa is, on the right of it is what? It sits on top of what? The Wailing Wall. The Aqsa sits on the Wailing Wall. So it sits on King Solomon's Temple for the Jews. I mean, from Jewish perspective. I have a picture. If I can show the picture, please. Do you mind if I show the picture so it makes total sense?
Go right ahead.
Yeah. You know how to do it?
I don't know how to do it.
Right.
Hey, zap the picture.
Well, that's fine.
over, Joseph,
I can't.
on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, send us a link or something. We'll post it.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on a second.
And if we don't have time in the rest of the show, we'll make sure it goes up on the Patreon and the Knights and Squires. There we go.
All right, so we got the Dome of the Rock.
Nope. That's not the one I shared. Do you mind I share?
Well, yeah, I'm vamping while you send things over the internet.
Don't give away our trade secrets, John.
Yes.
So here's a shiny object to look at while you get.
Because you can see
there
it
you
now.
Yes,
All right.
there we go.
There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
This is the Dome of the Rock, right? Like this is the
Mhm.
this is the Wailing Wall.
Mm.
So you can see this is the first killer. And the Aqsa is where, if you look at the Isra al-Mi'raj, where the Prophet, peace be upon him, went and meet God and all of the prophets through his enlightened path. So Isra, he went from Mecca to Jerusalem. So he went from Mecca, where he lived, to Jerusalem, which is Isra. The Mi'raj, which is ascending to the heavens, he went from Aqsa, from this spot. As a matter of fact, he tied the Borak, which is the Borak is a unicorn. It's a horse with a ponytail, it's a white horse it's a unicorn. It literally represents a unicorn. He tied it right here, and then he was ascending from here. A lot of people explain this as enlightenment journey. It was an enlightenment journey. The soul was raised because actually he prayed with every single prophet here. There are people that there are people like Shadili, Ahmed Shadili, which is a lot of Christian mysticisms learned from him from that perspective. When he walked into the Aqsa, he had a ru'ya, he had a vision where he saw the prophet and he saw Moses and he saw Jesus sitting down and having a conversation. And they saw about Al-Jazuli, which is another Sufi mysticist. So Al-Aqsa is a very key pillar in the Islam and also in Sufism because it's where we as Muslim were thought it was the ascending to the heavens. He could have ascended everywhere in the world, but he went to the Aqsa, the King Solomon's temple, where he ascended because that's the only way from that we were thought is the connections to the heavens. So go back to your point, Joe. They feel the presence of God. Yes, they do, because that's where God has been ascending. As a matter of fact, Muslims, they don't believe that King Solomon's temple was built in King Solomon's temple. King Solomon's temple was built 40 years after Mecca was built by Jacob, by Prophet Jacob. So King Solomon's temple, King Solomon built it because King David was ordered to build it. King David is the one that saw an angel on top of the mountain, and from the Christian, from the Bible, in the Quran, King David was ordered to build it. He purchased the land, and then King Solomon's temple finished the building of King Solomon's temple. So King Solomon's temple is a very key in every enlightenment path. Currently, Kabbalists, they believe they can't touch the enlightenment anymore until the rebuild of King Solomon's temple, which is a key thing for them from holies and holies. We Muslim believe people that walk in there, the Sufis that have reached the divine enlightenment path, they get there and they see things. They see things that are beyond the veil of appearances, and they see into that enlightenment where they see spirits and they see this connections with the whole souls that are out there. So with that being said, I'll stop sharing. That being said, King Solomon's temple, it's a figure also in Sufism, not only in Freemasonry or Kabbalah from a Jewish perspective, or Judaism in general.
Mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing you say is that part of this too is to emulate the spiritual journey of the prophet by going through these three levels of ascension.
No.
Okay.
Spiritual journey of prophet. No. You get to that alignment path is to get to that it touch with the prophet, because the prophet's soul is not died; it's still there. That enlightenment journey in the King Solomon's temple is also how it's the connection with God to the heavens, not through enlightenments, and the connection to the heavens. That's the only place we were taught where the prophet was ascending to the heavens, and he went with Gabriel to ascend to heaven. His soul went to Gabriel. So let's go back why it's so important, why it's a key place where Joe was mentioning there was the Holy of Holies had God's presence, because we're taught it's the connection to the heavens. So probably that's a good point. That's a really good point.
As Jose says, so he had to go to the temple because he needed to be near the original Holy of Holies to ascend.
Probably that's the Holy of Holies. It's the place where there's a true connection to God. We're not, as Muslims, taught that. This is Muslims, not Sufism. Muslims in general, we're not as Muslims that the Holy of Holies. We thought it's the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and back then it was not a mosque. It was the rooms of the King Solomon's temple.
Mm.
But as a Muslim, we believe in King Solomon's temple rebuilt the house. The first house was built by Prophet Jacob. 40 years after the Kaaba. Kaaba was built about 5,000 years ago. So it was 40 years after the build of Kaaba. So.
And then it was found in 1938 by Indiana Jones, and it melted all the Nazis' faces off. Boom.
Funny enough, but Joey, there's a good point you mentioned. When was the Wailing Wall found?
When was it found?
Yeah.
When they excavated Jerusalem?
In it was probably in 1700s, right? Where he was found? 1700s?
I'm not sure. I'll need to look that up.
Yeah, but when was found around that time? Because it was just a dome. So
Ooh.
it was there was no Wailing Wall. Yeah.
Mo!
Brother
Yeah,
Mo!
Brother Mo!
It was the first Kaaba, as I mentioned. So the first Kaaba, the first Qibla was King Solomon's temple before. And the reason and how it became the Kaaba, because they took all of the gods of Quraysh, the whole gods that were stones, they took them out and then they switched that. But at the first Kaaba was the ruins of King Solomon's temple. So just
wow.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you.
Go ahead.
I'm asking more of a personal question then. So, since you practice and since you're really into that style, and you see the connection between your practice and your Freemasonry practice, personally, like, what do you get out of it? What has been your personal experience? Not the history, not the textbook answer, but what does Mehdi get out of it?
So what, Freemasonry or Sufism?
Sufism in particular.
Okay, I will tell you both. That we can show you both. So
very diplomatic answer. Good.
Yeah, because it's good to teach you or to say both. When I hear both of them, it's a renewal of energy. I'm a very key. I actually have a presentation that talks about the stated meanings in Freemasonry. Everybody goes to it, and you feel like you're coming out with fresh of energy, because your energy.
What stated meetings are you going to, buddy?
The one that you make presentation in.
Oh, yeah, Manasseh Lodge stated, right?
Exactly. Oh, you should come to Patriot Lodge as well. We have amazing, or Ashman Sterling as well. So those are great lodges. You can go to them, and they are very. They renew energy, but they do renew energy. You feel it. A lot of people. I have to ask so many people because I was like, I'm the only one, but it does renew energy. Sufism is the same thing. It's an energy renewal, because in the Quran, God says, "Allah bidikrillah tatma'innul qulub." Isn't it with keeping repetition of the word God, dhikrillah, you say Allah, 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 which is Allah, it's mean God in Arabic. The Arabs, they pray to Allah as well, just FYI. So Allah, it's not the gods of the Muslims. Allah is just God of Abraham. Allah, you keep saying that word, it makes your heart comes at peace.
There is no God but God. Mm-hmm.
No, not la ilaha illallah. I said just Allah.
Mm-hmm.
And with Allah, 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 Allah. Just say only Allah. Not la ilaha illallah, which there's no God by God, but just Allah, just God. But it's the word Allah. Scientists
it becomes, essentially like a meditation mantra, right?
There are two things to it. The tongue, how it hits the upper of your mouth. That's touch it is a touch the brains, and it touches some nerves that are actually works with your whole body system. That's one. Two, the frequency that comes out of the word Allah. Because we have thought that music can calm the soul. The frequency that comes out from the word Allah from your mouth also helps through your veins, helps calm your soul. So there's a lot of things. And this is where things we're taught as a Muslim. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, did not have any miracles except the Quran. But the Quran, has science, has philosophy, has astronomy. Astronomy was created by Arabs. From where? From the Quran. Like literally, they took it. The whole astronomy came from Muslims.
Let's not forget alchemy. Right.
I don't want to get to alchemy because it's very mysticisms right now, and people start talking about alchemy from mystic perspective. So I don't want to even get there because I want to open cans that we're not gonna have enough time to clothes, right? Kind of warm. So not,
But
but
to
We
save it
never,
for part
we never have
two.
enough time for you to focus, Mehdi.
Yeah,
but
we
go
really
ahead.
don't.
but what I'm saying is, I want to go back to the teachings. Teaches is that the Quran. But one thing also, the Quran, there's some verses and chapters in the Quran that are meant for different reasons. Like for example, one of my favorite is the chapter Taha, which is one in the name of the Prophet. It's a stress relieving chapter. When I read it, I really feel like I get distressed. So what do I get out of Sufism myself is I get a self-awareness, a cleanse of energy, a humbleness that I am just a small human figure in a bigger space, and also a more divine soul, like where I get back to my divineness. Um, Ego, it's a very common thing. I mean, if we go back to Freud's teachings, right, there is the ID, the ego, and the super ego, right, the three stages of human being. But ego is part of two of those, right? So there are two of them are all ego driven, and that's Freud's teaching from a psychological perspective. So ego is very hard to come to fight with, and Sufism does help me with that. Breaking bread with brothers as a fellowship in Freemasonry helps me with that. There's a lot of things that are very common in those two, that each one of them helps from that perspective, and that balance I have between the two. And I'm just talking about Blue stated, which is my favorite thing, is the Blue Lodge and Sufism. That two combination does, and my daily prayers and so forth, keeps my divine going on, because I feel you have to be physically fed, mentally fed, and also really spiritually fed and fit. You have to be prepared to be fit in that perspective. So that's the three combinations, and Sufism and Freemasonry give me that perspective.
Nice. That's an awesome
Love it.
summary. It's an awesome way to kind of put a pause on the conversation, because I'm sure we could go lots of different varieties of different ways as well.
Do
but
another long form, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh gosh, there's so many ways we could go with this. But Brother Mehdi, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your experience, and sharing kind of the
man.
overview of the connection to the divine, right? That you live for, and that you bring with you wherever you go, including the lodge experience. So let's start bringing it around, as Jose says. Ego, super
Hey,
ego,
was it?
Good logico.
and grand ego. Yes, exactly.
Mm.
Let's start with RJ, and we'll take it home, and yeah, do final thoughts. Go ahead.
Final thoughts are that I have like a much more in-depth appreciation, excuse me, of Sufism, and I didn't always think about it in the way that we learned about it tonight. That Sufism is a sect of or a practice of Muslims, right? It's not, not all of, I think somebody put it in the chat, right? They said all Sufis are Muslim, not all Muslims are Sufis. So that was really awesome to like kind of confirm some of the things that have been out there, lingering questions that I know I should just like get up and reread something. But Mehdi, having you on tonight was awesome. I know these guys gave you a little bit of a hard time, about having a time and all of these things, but I thought you were really great. You spoke very well about all of these things, and actually, the thing I appreciate the most is when we reiterated something back, you were able to correct us even still, which a lot of times doesn't happen, right? People just go, "Oh yeah," because they don't want to, you know, uh, continue that vein of thought or whatever. But I really appreciate everything you brought, so thank you so much.
Oh yeah, RJ, that's nice. That's good. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, RJ.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
Thanks, RJ.
Jason.
Man, I was telling the guys in our chat that this is very, very easily and very quickly become one of my all-time favorite episodes. that we've done. Brother Mehdi, you've been so insightful and so willing to bring us along, not only on the journey, but on your journey. And I think um, the way you have, brought us through, your path of initiation um, into, greater communion with the divine is really, really exciting. So I'm blown away, and I just really appreciate you being willing to come on and just share with all of us just a little glimpse into, what relationship and communion with the divine means to you, and how Freemasonry augments and complements that.
Beautiful.
Thank
Thank you, Jason.
John called me beautiful.
You are.
Oh,
It's on record. Joe.
Yes. Mehdi, fantastic job, man. Knew you were going to do great. And I'm going to echo what Jason had said. Thank you for sharing your personal journey with us. You could have come and just, given us the BS Wikipedia answers, but to Jason's point, you shared with us your journey, which I thought, number one, was amazing, and number two was very insightful. And I've known you for years, but there's definitely some things you said tonight that I've never heard before. So thank you for sharing a part of yourself with not just us, but everybody here on the interwebs. Always good to be around you, and love you, and good luck in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Love you too, brothers.
So what's coming up in a couple of weeks? Over to you, Mehdi. And while you talk, I'm going to throw a couple of special shout outs and thank yous from the comments. Don't get distracted.
All
But
right.
This is your time
Focus,
to now
Mehdi. Focus.
have your final thoughts and see some appreciation from the chat.
Thank you so much, guys, for having me. It's great to share my journey as a Freemason, as a Sufist. It's good to tie things back together. There's a very misconception about Sufi, about Freemasonry as well, on how it's only was Christian driven, or it's because there is no religion to be divine. I tell that to everybody. When somebody cries to God and God answers his question, no matter what your religion you are, your heart is in touch with God at that time. So that's my philosophy in religion. That's how I see, because we're taught as Muslims, God is the closest thing to you. And is as Abrahamic religion believers, we thought that we have God, part of God, inside of us. So I always see things differently than others. I always have great conversation with Joe and with John and so forth about mysticisms and things of a kind, and other people in our fraternity. But I'm happy that I was part of the show and shared how I see the connections, and how I see just some fundamental connections between the two, and how the craft has exposed these connections and so forth. So thank you guys for having me, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed my thoughts and opinions, and shared some of your feedbacks. And as RJ said, I'm glad you guys gave me a hard time about the time, because yes, I do go on the time. So
no, and it's because we love you, man. That's
thank you.
It's easy to do because we know you so well, and that you are a wealth of information. We could talk about this for hours and hours, and we have, like, we've had conversations after lodge. We've had conversations, in cafes in Alexandria, Virginia, about the spiritual connection that we have with our own individual faiths, the similarities of the paths to enlightenment, and just the ascension that we have, and how we're trying to not only better ourselves, but better ourselves in the face of our Creator. And that's, again, something that I'm always fascinated by, because the more we go into the details of our specific paths and journeys. There's a casual smib out there for all the love. That's a throwback, Gary. Good call.
Joe's wearing the shirt tonight.
Oh, what shirt? Let me see this shirt. Casual smib. So yes. But yes.
Don't die.
Thank you very much, Brother Mehdi, for coming on. We need to go deeper. So, good luck in a couple weeks, and thank you for the conversation tonight. And I want to thank everyone else for tuning in and watching. And have a good night. And keep searching for more light. Have a good night.
Wow.
Keep searching. Searching for more light.
Oh, rejected.
Denied.
Keep searching.